Hello, everybody. Happy New Year, and thank you for joining the first ever Tech Thursday for the Immutable X Discord. Really glad for everybody to join. We thought that it would be great to kick things off with an AMA from one of our co-founders, and that's why we have Robbie here right now. Obviously, there's no need for any introductions. We'll just going through a bit of a process so that everybody's clear. If you have any questions, just post it in the community events text channel. We have a list of general questions already prepared, which I see will cover some of the questions you already have, and then we'll move on to audience questions. Now, moving on to Robbie. Robbie, I can't believe it was only around mid last year that Immutable X actually started. I'm pumped for 2022. How about you?
Yeah, it is actually nuts. I think last year packed 5 years or 10 years of tech development into a single year. So it was really, really big. And it is hard to kind of remember the fact that Immutable X as a protocol only released, in April of last year, and our first external customers went live in July of last year. So all of the traction that we've built to date has been in such a short period of time. And obviously the product has been in development for much longer than that. But I think this bodes extremely well for, I think the most important thing you can do in crypto for success is have a fast pace of innovation and aggressive decision making. And that's what is necessary to keep up with the level of innovation that you see. So yeah, super excited. 2022 is going to be a big year. So yeah, let's go.
Yeah, super crazy. All right, before we deep dive into the questions that are prepared, did you have anything you wanted to share to people here, or do you just want to go for it?
No, I'll be doing a bit more of this year. I think it's really important to keep up an extremely direct line with everyone, who's part of this audience today. You guys are our core followers, users, contributors. You have the critical feedback that we need to succeed. And ultimately, the way that we are going to win as a company and help power the future of digital asset trading in a completely open and self-custodial manner is if we can have our community being evangelists on our behalf. And that means we have to do, right by you guys. We have to listen to you guys closely. So excited to do more of this. We're always completely transparent about our roadmap and what we're building. And yeah, excited to get into it.
Definitely. It's definitely at least on Alina and my list this year to make sure we have a very solid content calendar. And I know some people already asked about socials, marketing, what we can do to make sure people are hyped, and that's definitely on the table. So don't worry about that. Okay, in that case, let's get on to the first question. Robbie, do you mind giving us your top highlights for 2021? What were the things you were most proud of?
Yeah, of course. I mean, there was a lot. So I think you probably can't look past some of the flagship deals that we landed as a company, whether it was TikTok launching their first ever NFTs and being the only company to pass their security requirements as a protocol was a really, really validating move. I mean, to have TikTok go into NFTs, let alone choose a Ethereum-based layer 2 to do so, was massive. And we will have, I think, over the next couple of months, more news that is of this league to be able to share with you guys. So really excited to share that soon. Of course, I mean, a number of other customers we worked with have been really exciting as well, whether it's VV powering some of Disney and Marvel and Bond's IP, whether it was Playco, whether it's some of the biggest gaming customers we worked with like Embersword and Planet Quest. We are pretty much blown away by the response to Immutable X throughout the entirety of 2021. And I think it's proving out the fact that games care about security, they care about scale, and they care about living on Ethereum. And of course, as you all know, games is not just the future of Immutable. We see the vision as every single form of unique asset in the world or unique form of value ultimately being tokenized by NFTs. And the goal of the Immutable platform is to be the liquidity platform that allows you to get the best possible price for any one of those assets, whether it's a gaming item, whether it is a IP, whether it is a collectible piece of art, or whether it is a term deposit run by Goldman Sachs or some form of unique insurance contract. Ultimately, this is going to be how we trade everything. So I think, big business development deals were really successful. And I'll call out one thing, which is pretty much all of this was done with one BD. So a shout out to our head of business development, Andrew Sorakovsky. But we've now scaled to more than 6, and this year we'll be scaling to more than 30, and similar sizes for our integrations and success teams. So we expect this to rapidly ramp up in terms of how many customers we can talk to and how many customers we can help build their NFT strategy for. The other big win I'd call out is the self-serve and product demand that was showcased for Immutable X. So the crazy thing that the craziest stat for me, and I think I shared this on the Immutable Twitter, is we went from 160 people November 1 building on Immutable's testing environment self-serve, so just coming in and building, to more than 800 today. So in under 2 months. And this kind of organic demand to me is the best reason that showcases why we've built a platform that can be successful. Because at the end of the day, any blockchain can go out there and offer a company large grants and synthetically create a deal. But what is very difficult to do is generate organic traction and have your platform be incredibly easy to be used permissionlessly. So this is probably the most exciting stat for me. As the NFT space scales, this is what is going to enable Immutable to be built on by anyone, in the same way anyone can use Stripe without having to talk to someone. So that was a really exciting stat. And of course, I think team growth was the other really big win of 2021. I think a really strong differentiator for us versus a lot of other projects in the space is just the size and credentials of the team that we've been building. So we're 140 people today. This year we'll be scaling to 300, and we hired more than 70 people last quarter. So the rate at which we're hiring is ramped up massively. And featuring in those hires are a lot of execs. So we're really excited to have shared. Obviously, we brought on people like Jill from Safety Culture, John Boris, who sold a two-sided marketplace to MasterCard, and ran Shutterfly, a Fortune 500 company, as its CMO. We hired a director of engineering from EA, who ran all of their asset systems there. And we've got a few more execs to share that we've just been hiring over the past 2 months that are not yet public. So really excited. I think the summary is big deals, organic traction, and a self-serve product people love, and hires. And of course, the success of the token launches, and we obviously plan on doing a lot more there. Yeah.
Awesome. I've definitely felt it firsthand, the rate of pace and growth that we've had, and definitely super exciting stuff. And I expect a lot more of that in 2022. Speaking of the NFT space, Robbie, what are the exciting things you think are happening within the broader NFT industry? What are trends you're super interested in?
Yeah, I think the biggest trends I'm interested in are what are the types of assets that are being tokenized, and where should we as Immutable play? So gaming is very much a core use case, and I think the biggest trend we're going to see is a lot of the volume shift out of speculative collectibles, which is what the vast majority of the 22 billion in 2021 volume was, into more utility-driven NFTs. And the reason is, especially if we go into a sideways market, and I mean, Immutable has lived through 3 bear markets, so that does not scare us. I think it's actually a fantastic time to acquire companies and build product. We think that the things that will be least impacted are NFTs where there's a real utility-driven reason to trade them. And the best examples of this are things like, even our own games, Gods Unchained, where assets are being traded because people want to play with them in the game. And so I'm extremely bullish this year on seeing games utilize NFTs to represent real in-game activity and people wanting to buy them so that they can use them for those utility-driven purposes. The other trend I'm fascinated by is how will we see NFTs start to encapsulate more of traditional finance. We've seen so far a big push into centralized registry asset classes. So things like IP with, the music companies such as One Of moving into the space. I'm fascinated by what TradFi assets will start to be tokenized this year, and Immutable plans to be at the helm of a few of those. So more to come there. That's just a teaser.
So out of all of those industries and industry trends, Robbie, what do you think are the biggest for Immutable X and our priorities?
For sure, it's the shift into utility-driven, high-volume NFTs. Where Immutable really succeeds and where we're obsessed with succeeding is how do we create liquidity for assets in the scale of the billions in terms of transfers? I mean, we're already doing 3 times the number of NFT trades each month over month, than either Polygon or even Solano is doing. So the volumes we're doing are crazy. And I think this is where we see the vast majority of the market going to is, expensive art is exciting. And I think that there's a real use case there. But the vast majority of the total addressable market for me is, well, how do people trade assets in a game that might be worth 20 cents or $2? How do people trade, assets for insurance contracts that are defined by real world value? And these assets are going to exist in the billions of supply. And so our shift there is, how do we cater to create the best possible experience for those assets? And B, how do we create liquidity for them? So some of you listening may know about our strategy for metadata-based trades. To me, that is, if you have instant gas trading with no gas fees, that's the 0 to 1 for providing liquidity for NFTs. The 1 to 100 is going to be, how do we create metadata-based trades? So the ability to actually bid on assets based on their underlying characteristics. And that will come out this year.
Awesome. As you know, part of our success is the success of our community. So Robbie, what would be your advice to people building on top of Immutable X, given that priority?
Yeah. I think my number one advice is, you may have seen yesterday that we came out with production minting contracts being self-serve registrable, which to me is incredibly exciting, because finally we've unlocked this final piece in the bottleneck of Immutable being able to scale completely permissionlessly. And I would seriously challenge, any other platform out there, just to see if someone wants to build an NFT business from scratch, the fastest way you can do it by orders of magnitude is going to be coming in and using our APIs. And so our plan this year is, how do we make this as simple as possible? Because if you can allow every Web2 developer to build an NFT business, your surface area or your market is 500 million Web2 devs, or however many there are in the world. It's certainly in the hundreds of millions. If you're requiring people to do smart contracts, you've then limited your audience to like 10,000 people. So that's really our goal, is how can we democratize access to NFTs? How can we make sure that NFTs tokenize the world? And how can we make sure that as they tokenize the world, we don't compromise user custody, we don't compromise user security, because otherwise, what is the point? We may as well put everything on a centralized database. And we've seen the impact of this over the past 8 weeks, right? With Solana or Arbitrum going down for hundreds of hours, with a $600 million Poly network hack, and then a $24 billion Matic vulnerability. So it's very clear that security is core to what, it's now becoming table stakes for any business building.
Awesome. Really exciting stuff. Now, those are all amazing and good things. Let's look at the flip side of the coin. What are the challenges, in your opinion, for Immutable X, and how are we dealing with it?
Yeah, I think there's a few challenges. So right now, the biggest things we want to get done are improve the distribution of IMX in partner marketplaces. So obviously the OpenSea deal is really critical here. We're feeling good about this at the moment, and we should see movement quite early in 2022. And there was actually a question in the Discord, which is, the marketplace is not providing a good user experience. What functions and improvements are being made? I couldn't agree more. And ultimately, that's actually a deliberate, thing from us, which is A, we're resource constrained, but B, our goal is not for Immutable X's marketplace to have market share. That's not the business we're in. We're trying to provide a great default experience to showcase how people can build their own marketplaces. But ultimately, where we'll be moving this year is the metrics by which we measure the success of the marketplace is, how easily can other marketplaces build, using that as an example, and what is the market share of those marketplaces? So we are going very, very aggressively down this route this year in terms of integrating with as many different NFT marketplaces as possible, because each one of those massively improves the distribution of orders on Immutable X and our liquidity.
Awesome. What's your overall strategy, in your opinion, for Immutable X to succeed in the NFT space?
Ultimately, the only thing that will matter is, where do you go that provides you with best security and the best liquidity? And this sort of scale and security will ultimately be commoditized. So there'll be, many people providing that. So what really matters is where do you go to get the best possible price for an asset? Because that platform has liquidity, it has depth, it has the best possible prices. So I think that's our long-term strategy, is to really, build this network where you can trade anything. It can be an in-game item, it can be a collectible, it can be a financial item, and you get the best possible price at the maximum depth. And really important to that is we don't compete for eyeballs, so we don't compete with marketplaces, we don't compete with trading experiences, which means that our goal is, if you're a Twitch streamer and you want to sell an item that you just used to win a Fortnite tournament, let's say it's a John Wick skin, you should be able to auction that in real time via a Twitch overlay to everyone watching that stream. And Immutable is compatible with that, right? You'd be tapping into Immutable's liquidity under the hood. Obviously, this is just a theoretical example. And so that's really core to our strategy and why we think we're going to be able to create a great experience for businesses, because we can allow them global access to liquidity while allowing them to retain their own eyeballs. And this is also the case for, marketplaces. And I suppose that's goal number one. Goal number two is just build the best possible business with the best possible people and go to market extremely aggressively. So as I said, we're hyperscaling our business development, integrations, and success teams. Our goal should be, if you come to us, we can help get you to market by far the fastest. We can support your scale at any level, and we can get you the best possible secondary volume. So, to that end, expect more news from us soon in terms of some company-related announcements. And essentially, it's just, how do we create the best possible business to help games or other companies build a successful NFT project?
Exactly. And to that end, I wonder what are things in the roadmap you can share to the community. I know a lot of these things are in flux and not super concrete, but what are things you're super excited about for this year?
Yeah. So we've got the biggest deals we will ever announce that will be announced over the next month or so. I can't share anything on those yet, so apologies for teasing, but we're really excited about them. We've got a bunch of gaming businesses that we've already announced, and you probably saw yesterday that we did, I think, one of the biggest L2 sales ever with Gary V's book games. So V Friends, and we'll be working closer with them this year. That was, I think, 18 mil volume already in the first 48 hours. So that's super exciting. The biggest things in our roadmap, I think, are going to be, how do we add composability to Immutable X this year? We already have a massive community and a massive set of developers. We want to allow people to start building complex functionality on top of Immutable permissionlessly. That's kind of core. The best analogy I've heard is, as compound finance is to sort of interest, as is composability or open ability to build on something for technology development, because it allows these network effects to be established and for escape velocity essentially around functionality. So super excited about composability. We're really excited on the gaming side of the business as well to ramp up Gods Unchained and Guild of Guardians. So Gods Unchained has more than 10x its player base over the past 3 months. It has now more than 150,000 monthly players. I think this is one of the largest crypto games by, it's easily in the top 3. And this year we want to take that to tens of millions and, have it become Axie-like in its success and become a platform for other games and content. So really excited about that. We've got a couple of executive hires on the gaming side that we'll be announcing over the next couple of months as well. And of course, Guild of Guardians has one of the largest crypto communities and we'll be launching this year. And the entirety of that economy is designed around, how do we use trading at the core of the game. So really excited to see that. And I think the things that excite me about that is all of the IP we put into those games are shareable with our customers. So, if a customer works with us, suddenly they have access to all the tokenomics, the fungible tokens, the gaming strategies that we've used to develop those 2 games, which is, I think, what allows us to have such a strong presence and convert so effectively when we talk to these gaming customers. So that's the, I suppose, go-to-market and product roadmap. Obviously, from a technical perspective, the things I'm really excited about this year is A, metadata-based trades, B is fees. So obviously our fees will be going live very shortly. This will give a strong value prop to the token, as obviously we'll have a percentage of fees be required to be paid for in IMX, which is adding massive utility to that. And we're excited to release that. Those are probably the biggest items. Stay tuned for more, and we're rapidly ramping up our product and engineering teams. So as always, if anyone has any referrals of people who want to come work at Immutable or has expertise, please do send them through. We have referral fees ranging from $3,000 to $10,000.
Speaking of team, that's a great segue to the live questions from the community. I'll be going through them one by one. Apologies, everybody. I don't think we'll have time for everything, but we'll do our best. Now, the first one is from Halzen627. Speaking of teams, Halzen's question was, how much will the team be expanding? What areas is the team looking to hire in?
What areas is the team not looking, which is not many, is probably a more useful question. So we'll be hiring 80 product and engineer people this year. We are hiring at every level of seniority, especially in product. So we're looking for a chief product officer. From the engineering perspective, we're hiring at pretty much all levels as well. In terms of go-to-market, this is an area of big expansion for us. So our go-to-market team has moved from 4 people halfway through last year to 25 people to date, plus business development, integration, success, and community. We want to bring this to 100 people this year across BD, integration, and success. So if anyone's keen to come and sell, please let us know. We are trying to scale that up massively, and we're also hiring into each vertical. So we're hiring gaming experts, we're hiring crypto experts, and pretty much there's no cooler job in the world, because you get to talk to biggest companies in the world and help advise them on completely, blue ocean strategy when it comes to NFTs.
Awesome. The next one is from Solion. This is somewhat of a tricky subject, I think. The question was, could you elaborate on which parts IMX are currently a bit centralized, and how can they be decentralized over time? What do you say to people concerned about assets being blacklisted and not being able to participate in the economy?
Yeah, awesome question. So the trade-off that Immutable X makes as part of its technical composition is sensitive resistance. So if you try and do a trade on us, we can at the end of the day say, hey, we don't care about this trade, we're going to throw it away. That is very limited in its downside for 2 reasons. Number one, you can always withdraw your assets no matter what to layer 1. So we can never lie about a trade on your behalf, which is really the core thing, because that protects the fundamental value and security of these NFTs. You can also never change, say, the scarcity of a smart contract or the metadata of an asset. So that is really, really crucial to us. And in general, this is a trade-off that I think is by far the best approach to the scaling trilemma to date. In terms of slowly decentralizing that, the biggest thing we can do is decentralize like the sequencer in our order book, which we'll be looking at doing. The second part of this question is, what do you say to people concerned that individual assets or wallet addresses could be blacklisted and prevented from participating in the economy? And that is a very easy answer, which is we cannot and will never do that. But the cannot is the more important part of that, which is we can never blacklist an asset or an address. The most we've ever done is from our marketplace hidden collections, which is a very different strategy to us, because what we show in our marketplace is one thing. What exists on the protocol and can be traded against is completely decentralized, and we will never interfere with.
Yes, and I'll loop back to what Robbie said a while ago. The marketplace for Immutable is just the default marketplace. Anybody or any other marketplace that builds on top of us can actually just build whatever they want and show whatever they want. Next is from Tyrus. This is a popular question as well. What are your thoughts on Polygon's strategy of being a jack of all trades and master of none with their acquisition of various ZK solutions? Would you consider them a competitor?
Yeah, look, I'm sure we compete with Polygon on deals. Absolutely, I think they're obviously have done a great job last year, and big fans of the team and friends with the team. Look, ultimately, our goal is to have. I don't think you need 5 ZK solutions in order to provide an effective experience. You just want the one that people want to use. And so our strategy this year regarding Starkware, we'll be able to share more details on soon, but we'll effectively be able to provide scale at any level for games, including dedicated instances. And yeah, look, I probably won't comment too much more on that. Obviously, the space is quite close and competitive, but in general, we're very supportive of proper L2/ZK solutions. I'm excited to see Polygon actually implement those in NFTs, because at the moment they're not really being used for anything, and it's still just their sidechain effectively. And I think obviously that has a lot of problems with it in terms of them hard forking their blockchain with really no notification to the community on having a $24 billion vulnerability. I think that's why they're investing so heavily in proper L2 alternatives.
Awesome. Next two is from Butler ATTFS. What types of responsibility do you envision handing over to governance in the future? And what do you think is the ideal scenario?
Yeah, I think this is very interesting. So at the moment, the real reason people use governance is as a regulatory arbitrage. So just to be able to decentralize, the company and say, well, hey, we don't own anything. And that's what we don't need to do that. We don't do that. So to us, governance is more, how do we give the community a meaningful share in how they shape the future of Immutable X? And how do we actually use that as a growth lever? Because I think governance has still yet to prove itself as more effective than a centralized org in terms of efficiently making decisions. So I think it's going to be over time, carving out the right places for governance to play, and then increasing that power as kind of you get more interest and more efficient decision making from the community. So I see the biggest things is having kind of a say in how we use tokens in terms of growing the community, how we use them in terms of grants, and ultimately the most important thing is, how does everyone who owns IMX tokens or participates in the community, how can they feel like they're completely enfranchised and they own a piece of what we're doing and can shape the future of what we're building. So I think over time we plan to give more responsibility to governance, but we also plan to do that while being as fast growing and as efficient as possible. And so if that is not the best way that IMX will gain market share, we won't do it.
Fair enough. Can you elaborate on the current plans around Starknet?
We cannot yet. We'll have more to share soon.
Awesome. Moving on to Kirk G. I feel like there's a deficiency in the social media / communications and marketing area of the project. Do you share the same sentiment?
I agree. And I think the reason is Alina and Nigel, the brilliant people on the call with us today, are the only members of our social media, comms, and marketing team. This is incredibly understaffed in the company at the moment, and they're our highest priority hire. So we're currently searching for a CMO, head of marketing. We've got one hire will be coming in very soon, but we're going to scale very rapidly to 10, 20 people. I think on one hand, it's also exciting because the traction that we've seen to date has been so much from the organic community that we've built and the product that we've built. So once we start pouring gasoline on the fire, essentially with a sizable marketing team, we'll be able to punch above our weight. So I think it's both a weakness and an opportunity, but completely, yeah, we need to rapidly scale up here.
And watch this space. Alina and I have a lot planned for 2022. Next is from Sidders. Oh, Sidders already mentioned this is the same Polygon and other ZK rollups. Another one from Sidders. Are there other games you are looking forward to partner with in the future, such as Sandbox, DeFi Kingdom, or even Sunflower Farmers?
Yeah, of course. I mean, gaming is our core vertical. We are talking to so many games right now. It's not funny. We have some really big announcements to make here soon. We've already obviously launched partnerships that will be launching this year with some of the biggest games companies in the world. And I actually think the biggest market that will emerge here is going to be the mid-market. So kind of games worth between 50 mil to sort of 500 mil who are going all in on Web3 and NFTs. Because ultimately what we've found is the biggest determinant to someone's success is not are they a giant company, but how committed are they to actually using NFTs to change what they're doing rather than just doing a press release and sort of a small dive in. So absolutely, please send us anyone if we're not talking to them. We talk to everyone.
And this one from Death Gun, a fun one. When IMX merch?
It's a great question, Nigel. When do you think?
Yes, soon. We already have a vendor. We will figure this out. We also want this. Awesome. Next is from Liquid Emoji. Liquid was asking when daily IMX trading rewards, and will they be implemented as a retrospective for those who have been trading on IMX since the beginning?
Sorry, Nigel, can you say that one again?
I might drop out. No worries. Liquid Emoji's question was, when are we coming up with daily trading rewards for IMX? And when they are implemented, will they be retrospective for those who have been trading?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if I can answer the retrospective question. This will be released very soon. So I believe the timing will be this quarter. It's obviously core. And if we're seeing the volumes we are today, imagine the volumes we're going to start seeing when everyone is earning IMX for every trade they do. But the thing that most excites me about this, and I actually should have added this into the roadmap, is every single partner who now launches on Immutable X has their volume turbocharged by, IMX tokens being rewarded to every single person trading. And that means, if we do a deal with a major games company, and they have 10 million users, suddenly every single one of those 10 million users owns a piece of this decentralized future. They have IMX. So that's the coolest thing to me, which it's probably the greatest community building tool in the history of the world.
Awesome. It's super exciting, definitely. From Domokill, are there any plans for IMX to be on Coinbase NFT or Luxor platform?
Yeah, so I probably won't speak to any specific marketplace. What I can say is we are talking to pretty much every major NFT marketplace in the space. If there's someone we are not talking to, we'll grab an intro and start talking to them, because this is core to our strategy, is getting IMX supported everywhere as much as possible.
Exactly. If you have intros, share it to us and our BD team. We'll be happy to take them. Here's from CryptoRod. I see a bunch of gaming projects listed as building on Starknet, but also know of a lot that they say they are building on Immutable X. Just wondering what the difference is between building on Starknet versus Immutable X, and why would you choose one over the other?
Yeah, so I suppose building on Starknet directly, some people may say Starknet and they mean IMX. The difference would just be whether you're working directly with Starkware versus with us. Obviously, we think we bring a ton of value to NFTs. Where we wouldn't be the right choice is if you're doing like a DeFi app. So I don't know if you're building Compound. That's not what we're focused on.
Awesome. A super popular question. When OpenSea? Is this still in the works? And what's the launch date?
Still in integration mode. We've actually just kicked that off. This is going well. I can't share a specific date, but we're looking good on this.
Awesome. Any news on staking for the IMX coin from Wally31?
Absolutely. Yeah. So staking will be coming soon. I can't give a particular date, but these are, if you look at our product roadmap, the most important things to deliver, which is how can we deliver fees, IMX rewards, staking, and make those exceptional experiences for people.
Same from Wally, what's happening with Vivi? What's the integration update?
So we've fully integrated with Vivi. So they're all minted on Immutable X. Trades are visible on Immutascan. Vivi does have strict licensing requirements. So they currently only allow trading of their assets inside the Vivi app or their native currency, OMI. So Any users of VV are receiving a custom custodial wallet when they install the app, and this wallet is used to control their assets. And what this approach does is it prevents orders or trades of VV assets from appearing elsewhere, so including in other marketplaces, etc. Over the long term, I think Economy will be looking to open things up. I can't speak on their behalf, obviously. They're probably best equipped to speak to the timing on this. This is not the way that the vast majority of customers use IMX, but we're more than happy to support this. And they've been a brilliant partner to work with. And hopefully we can keep you guys in the loop with that.
Awesome. This is from Eric DS. Is there any update on the hiring of the head of tokens? I think he's seeing it from our jobs board. Why don't we just hire an agency like Delphi Digital? What's the intention of the hiring?
Yeah, so look, we work with a bunch of agencies. There's nothing that can really replace having the right internal executive. So you can't really contract this stuff out. What we have done is, this is so important that we actually took our director of operations, Eddie, so one of our execs, and he will be jumping into this role full time until such a time that we've hired someone. So we've all kind of taken his other responsibilities and split them out, because this is really crucial to us. So yeah, we've filled this role internally. I'm sure we'd still be open to a hire if we find the right person externally, but we found this an incredibly tricky role to hire.
Awesome. Next one is, this is an interesting one from Mikan99. Will Immutable X be available as a network in Metamask? For example, Polygon mainnet?
Awesome question. No, because we don't need to be. So the reason Polygon has its own sort of blockchain is it's like it's a different consensus mechanism. You're connecting to a different blockchain. We are built entirely on Ethereum. The way we work is as a smart contract built on ETH L1. And so we don't actually need to integrate even per se. It automatically works because you're just signing transactions directly on Ethereum. So obviously there are ways we can get more support with wallets like Metamask by having IMX assets show up natively inside that wallet, but we don't need to have support in terms of switching blockchains, because that's not the way our architecture is designed.
Awesome. And the next one is ERC20 tokens. When will those be available in the roadmap?
So they're already available. You can already launch a project or an ERC20 on IMX and have them denominated as assets in IMX. I think we'll be making this permissionless this year, so you can register any ERC20 and kind of list orders for your assets inside that ERC20.
Yes, exactly. Keyword there is we'll be making it permissionless sometime this year. Beanboy, what is being done to increase marketing of IMX projects and drive greater adoption of wallets to the platform?
Yeah, so our strategy here is twofold. We're obviously a B2B business, as in businesses are our customers, but we're very much B2B2C, in that I view community as the number one thing we can cultivate in terms of helping to grow the success of what we're building. And that's because the larger community we have, the more we can, any new game who comes to us can suddenly become part of the Immutable family. You know, everyone can go and try out that game. They can become early players. They can get early rewards. And so that's something we're definitely looking at moving more into the space this year. And then the second one is we're going incredibly aggressive on both marketing and GTM this year. So, I mean, expect the number of deals and partnerships we've been announcing to 10x this year. Expect the level of marketing presence we have to massively increase. So yeah, I mean, this is just how do we hyperscale the company, and we've already put in a lot of the groundwork needed in terms of hires to make that happen.
Awesome. There's a few questions here about what sets IMX apart from Saul or Solano.
Yeah, I look at a few things. I think you can probably see from the fact that Solano is down for more than 150 hours over the past few months that it's uptime, resilience, scale, and security. And in fact, we do more NFT transfers and trades on IMX than Solana does. So we're already operating at a much higher level of scale. The other difference is we're built on Ethereum. So that's where the majority of NFT volume is. We inherit their security. And then I'd say the other key thing is to differentiate us from a blockchain is Immutable is the pipes and the back end for NFTs everywhere, which means if you sell an NFT in a game, like let's say you get a Gods Unchained card and you list it for sale inside Gods Unchained, the game, that order suddenly shows up in every marketplace which supports us, which is not true for a blockchain, even for Ethereum L1. And that's actually really core to our strategy, is becoming this pipe of backends for places you trade NFTs.
Awesome. I'm skipping a few things because it's been discussed. Are there any more plans to list IMX in more popular exchanges? Also, is there any color around why you chose FTX to start with? This was from Aquatic Monkey.
Yeah, we are listed on every major exchange. I don't think there's anything where we aren't on. We're in Binance, Coinbase, FTX, OKX. Yeah, if someone knows there's something that we're not on, let us know.
Exactly. This one is from Moon to Dab. How can IMX be the blockchain network that goes normie level mainstream for gaming?
Yeah, awesome question. So this actually harks back to how we started as a company, which is, some of you will recall, we came into the space first in December 2017 with the first ever multiplayer game on a blockchain. And the reason we started out by building games is not because, I'm a particularly good game entrepreneur. I think we know what players like, but ultimately that's not the core business we're in. But what we did realize is that no one cared about NFTs back in 2018. And so we had to, in the same way that Valve built Counter-Strike Go to leverage into Steam Marketplace, we had to showcase an example of why NFTs mattered, which we did with Gods Unchained. And so I think that's actually still kind of core to what we've done today, which is we need to make it ridiculously easy and ridiculously valuable for gaming customers to want to build NFTs. And that's both a product thing, but it's also a full services offering, which is make it as easy as possible for them to do compliant offerings of tokens, make it as easy as possible for them to have the right tokenomics, which help them scale their game. And so here, in order to get, I suppose, normie level scale, there's how do we get as many different games companies as possible to build a better game using NFTs? That's the test. And you can actually break that down into a few things, which is what's the cost of acquisition of a customer? What's the revenue per user? And what's the retention? And that really tells you how much does players love a game and how good is that game. And our bet is that NFTs will radically improve each of those metrics. There's no magic hand waving around, here's what NFTs will transform in gaming. It's simply, hey, this is a better way to do an old industry with much better incentive alignment between player and publisher. And of course, the other thing that I think is really exciting is breakout hits. So we want to work with 500 games so that 100 of those are big and 20 of those are massive sort of Axie level successes. And I think we'll start to see those break out this year. And as soon as you get a few of these, you have a massive flywheel. And this has already started. So I've been talking to the VCs that I've been talking to. They're remarking on the fact that they've never seen so much talent coming out of classically trained entrepreneurs, from the best universities in the world, who instead of going to build a SaaS startup, are now working on gaming. I mean, even look at Splitgate, which is a multi-billion-dollar kind of portal game built on PlayStation and Xbox, if you've seen it, which is like all just Stanford computer science grads being, hey, how do we build a game in a better way? Discord even started out as a game. So I think the line and kind of previous circle that was drawn around gaming as a niche is like, it's going to take over the world. And the most ambitious people of our generation are trying to create new and innovative ways to game.
Awesome. Super exciting. Here is Brown Boy saying, hey, Robbie, I just applied for a product manager role. Thank you very much for applying. And he was curious, what keeps you up at night, or what concerns or challenges you think we'll have to address in 2022?
Yeah, look, actually nothing at the moment. I used to say hiring, but we've landed so many exec hires last year I'm really thrilled with. I think the biggest things we want to do this year is we've got product market fit. We've got an early great customer base. How do we hyperscale? So how do we, 100x our volume this year? How do we take this to the masses? How do we transform gaming? And ultimately, how do we be kind of when people think of NFTs, they shouldn't think of the connotations that we see with gamers today. They should think of true value being handed to players. And so I think an interesting anecdote is actually for the first 3 years of the company being built, we never referred to NFTs as NFTs. If you look at even the Gods Unchained homepage today, we still don't. We refer to them as, digital goods that you can own and trade for real money, because that's what should matter, is the rights and benefits you get. When you go to a website that's encrypted, the site doesn't advertise that it has HTTPS end-to-end encryption. It just shares the benefits of your password is secure, and you know that by looking at a green lock. And so I think that's actually really crucial to moving away from some of the stigma associated with NFTs right now, which in some part comes from sort of speculative or scammy projects, and moving it toward it's a standard of owning assets on the internet, and the benefits that brings are massive.
Yes, exactly. Next one is from Cryptographer. What is your personal Holy Grail partnership?
Yeah, I think we landed it, which was TikTok. So, I mean, that's always great when we go out as a company and say, this is what we care about, and we're able to land that. I'll also say Starkware has been phenomenal to work with, just on the technology side. So, obviously not a gaming, a GTM partnership, but they've been brilliant. Look, I mean, make a list of the top 10 biggest gaming companies in the world, and you pretty much have our internal priority list. And then the thing I'm really excited about is this year showcasing the future of NFTs beyond just gaming and beyond just collectibles. How can we actually take trillion-dollar markets in the TradFi space and start to tokenize them?
From Margosh, what does ETH 2.0 mean for layer 2?
ETH 2.0 is very complementary to layer 2. So what it will mean is the proofs we upload are cheaper and faster, and it means Ethereum can become more efficient as a settlement layer. So you can expect a 20 to 50x improvement in throughput and cost on the ETH 2.0. Obviously, that doesn't touch the scale still necessary to kind of run a World of Warcraft, for example. But when combined with the scaling tech we do, Ethereum becomes a very, very, very compelling scaled blockchain platform in a modular mechanism. So I like to say that, ETH 2.0 plus IMX L2 is going to be completely unstoppable in the scaling offering. It can offer any customer of any size.
Awesome. And this one is from Ramo. What about other on-ramp solutions? Aside from MoonPay, are there any other partnerships in sight?
Yeah, nothing I can share right now, but we will be increasing our partnerships here. One of the core things we want to do this year is allow you to trade any asset on Immutable X peer-to-peer with credit card directly. So you won't even have to purchase ETH2 in the middle.
Awesome. Next one is from G's. As for UX and UI challenges, they pose a great barrier to entry. Will IMX be looking to create more seamless user interfaces to attract non-crypto and crypto natives?
Yeah, I think, as I said before, some of this we will build ourselves, but ultimately this is not where we want to compete. We want to build the best possible protocol, and so we want the best possible UI to be built on top of that protocol. So if you're building something, reach out. We'd love to help you. And I think there'll be many, obviously, for instance, Mintable launched very recently. And so the goal is really how do we have incredible marketplaces, products, UIs built on top of the IMX protocol.
Here is from Steven. It's been upvoted. Any direct L2 integration plans on exchanges?
Absolutely. I mean, all the marketplace announcements are a direct L2 integration. So things like Mintable is already done. As I said before, we're working on all the major NFT marketplaces.
Mm-hmm. Got it. This one. Price question from Sarkis. Do you think the IMX coin is undervalued in price at the moment?
So I can't comment on that from a legal perspective.
Yeah. Will you have launch pads that connects NFT projects with game developers?
Absolutely. So, I mean, we already have many of these today. Some of the partnerships that we've made today with people like Superfarm or Collex, I mean, they're happy to help customers as they scale. And we'll have many, many more coming out soon. In fact, one of the announcements that I said that I think it'll probably be the biggest or the second biggest NFT news in the last year will be announced pretty soon.
Sorry, there was a clarification on the L2 integration. What they meant was, is there going to be an L2 integration with, say, Coinbase or Finance so that they don't have to use layer 1?
Stephen, you will have to clarify that question again for me. Do you mean in terms of their NFT marketplace? Yeah. Happy to, let's move to the next question while we wait for that clarified.
Yeah. Are the 20% protocol fees for being paid on IMX purchased from the open market? Is that live yet? Question mark.
Yeah, so I mean, we have a bit of flexibility here. We obviously want to keep it as smooth as possible in terms of price impact. They will be ultimately purchased at the open market. Yep, and that's not yet live. So that will go live when our fees go live.
Got it. And from Sid King, do you view your tokenomics as surging for public investors due to the high level of inflation?
We have a hard cap supply, so no.
Got it. Question, are you planning to add rentals to IMX? And is there an ETA?
Okay, great question. Rentals are really interesting. I probably would have to check this with the product team. As far as my knowledge in IMX goes, it's almost nigh impossible to do a self-custodial, permissionless rental of an NFT. You have to collateralize it because once it's given, it's given, and you can't kind of have a pullback. Obviously, partners can build NFT rental systems on top of their games and experiences, which I'm sure people will.
Cool. I think that's towards the end. From Ramo, will there? Yeah, it's still not clear. Will there be a way to come from the exchange directly from L2? I think what they mean is on-ramps from an exchange like Binance going directly to L2.
Let me just kind of interpret this question. Right, I see. Yes, yeah, I'm sure we're working on that, Stephen. I can't give any direct predictions though.
Yeah. Awesome.
So I imagine a lot of these companies are looking directly into that as well, as they're already, looking at this from a NFT marketplace supporting L2 perspective. So it's not a big jump to assume they'll start to support the fungible token services as well. I think it'll be slower than the NFT side though.
Cool. I think that's towards the end of all the questions already. We have limited time as well. Let me end with this final question. What is your fearless forecast for 2022, Robbie?
Yeah, absolutely. And Nigel, I'll chuck one in more before that because I think it's an important question from Kintax, which is what strategies are being implemented to mitigate monthly token unlocks and the impact to the price of IMX. So I think the really important thing to remember about the way we've allocated the supply of IMX is pretty much the vast majority of the supply is not, sold to investors awaiting unlock. What it is being given away to both businesses and customers using IMX that will grow the protocol. So I suppose I don't even really think of it as much as mitigation and more as how efficiently can we distribute those tokens to maximize the growth of IMX. So I think it's if we're doing our job right, it will be benefiting the token. So I think that's very important to remember about what we're doing.
Awesome. There's two questions here. Do you want to answer that, or do you want to close the session, Robbie?
Why were the Coinbase and Binance things sign up for the Coinbase unlocks? I'm not sure. I don't think that was deliberate. We don't have control over the timing of Coinbase or Binance listing us. That's a very opaque process deliberately, as it's a marketing move event. Awesome. Let's jump to the end, Nigel.
Yes, awesome. In that case, 2022 fearless forecast. What is it, Robbie?
Yeah, awesome. I think we're going to see probably 10 times the amount of games building NFTs actually release things as we did last year. I think the cumulative volume will be in the tens of billions of dollars at a conservative estimate. And I think we're going to see traditional finance jump into the NFT space. So those are kind of my forecasts, which is gaming businesses will move to NFTs at a scale that's pretty much similar to the mobile era. If you remember how like Zynga pioneered mobile gaming or social gaming, we're going to see that exact same playbook be played out through gaming, where someone figures out, here's the strategy with NFTs, and then starts ramping up using that playbook and just deploys numerous games that can all outcompete the competition. And this will be the next paradigm of how successful games are built and deployed.
Awesome. 2022 will be big. All right. Thank you for your time, Robbie. Really appreciate you giving your time to chat to the community today.
Of course. Thanks, everyone. Catch you soon.
Yeah, thanks, everybody. We will try to do this more often. As I mentioned, this is just the beginning of 2022. You should expect a lot from me and Alina. We are content for everyone across the community. Thanks for joining, and see you next time.